Honourable Speaker, there is a lot of data involved in this question, and actually the source is the Fiji Country Gender Assessment, which I had spoken about last week, which has been launched, Honourable Speaker. Also, the data itself is available to members. They wish to get that data. But suffice to say, Honourable Speaker, I think the trends of domestic violence in our country to this day is something that is a national shame. We have higher than the average of the world average, which is 1 out of 3 women. 2 out of 3 women in Fiji faces some form of violence, Honourable Speaker. In fact, it should be something that we as a parliament should pursue and support to declare it a national crisis. It's really reached that stage, and it's been a number of years that governments have tried to tackle this issue, including the previous government. And of course, this is something that has fallen upon the government now. But it is really, really worrying in terms of our trend being above the global average. And Honourable Speaker, just some very quick statistics on this is that apart from the 2 out of 3 women that face some sort of intimate partner violence, the forms of violence that are prevalent and severe are hitting, kicking, dragging, choking, burning, or being threatened with a weapon. And from the statistics, these 15% of the women state that they are attacked while pregnant. And while pregnant, they are being punched or kicked in the abdomen. The proportion of women who have been beaten during pregnancy is significantly higher among younger women. So younger women. So it's increasing, Honourable Speaker. Nearly 6 in 10 women over their lifetimes are subjected to emotional violence. So I talked about physical violence, now we're talking about emotional violence, 6 out of 10 women. The men who exert control of their spouses, Honourable Speaker, it talks about controlling behavior. So controlling behavior. And then on to the most common form of sexual intimate partner violence is marital rape. And that's in the statistics too, that marital rape is the most common form. And also, Honourable Speaker, that women who face economic abuse, we report that about 28% of women face economic abuse from a husband or de facto partner. Either they forcibly take their savings or earnings, or they refuse to provide money for food and expenses. And so this is the form of economic abuse that women face. Honourable Speaker, we know the data that the Fiji Police Force puts out every year, the crime against women and children. The biggest portion, Honourable Speaker, 73% are between the age of 18 to 35. So again, they're in the youth population, the young women who are facing this. Honourable Speaker, very quickly, just in the domestic violence helpline, in terms of the number of calls that we received, of course there was a spike in it during COVID, but then after that, in COVID 2020 and then in 2021, it doubled in just the first half of the year from 2020. So again, Honourable Speaker, in 2021, which is again the recent statistics provided, women reporting, there's increase in reporting, but they're reporting increased aggressiveness and intensified physical violence. And this includes burnt with hot soup, punched, kicked or dragged by the throat, whipped by their husband on horseback, threatened with knives or other objects such as bricks, stones, gardening spades, garlic powder, and firewood. So, Honourable Speaker, the data doesn't lie. It is actual data that is available from the Bureau of Stats and also collected through the Domestic Violence Helpline and also our workers. The business cost for violence, we lose 10 work days in a year because of violence faced by women. And because, again, those who are worried about women facing violence, they say that they are distracted or unwell or feel tired from work, or they are late or absent from work because they're worried about the person going through it. And supporting colleagues also face some sort of violence as a result of it. They get the shrapnel or the collateral damage being involved. But Honourable Speaker, there are things that the Ministry is doing at the moment, which includes, we're very excited about launching the National Action Plan to prevent violence against all women and girls. And this makes Fiji the first Pacific Island country and only one of 2 countries globally to have a national action plan to prevent violence against women before it starts, Honourable Speaker. And this is yet to come to Cabinet and to be approved. But it is, again, based on data and evidence about the root cause of violence. And what is the root cause of violence? It's patriarchy. It's patriarchy, Honourable Speaker. The entitlement that power has over women, and that women are not entitled to the same rights. Honourable Speaker, the Ministry would really like to see this as something that we can declare as a national crisis because of what our women and girls face. And we hope that the Parliament will support this should we bring it to the House. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Yes. Supplementary from Honourable Ketan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for your response. How does your ministry engage with marginalized communities who may face additional barriers to accessing services and support? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for the question. The Ministry is now undertaking, working with service providers in the community. We are actually yet to bring DV shelter guidelines to be approved so that our service providers who are in the community can provide shelters for our women who are facing violence, as well as children who are part of the families that face violence. The shelter guidelines are needed, Honourable Speaker, because we have homes that have opened up but yet to come under the Ministry officially, so that we are able to monitor and ensure that the services provided or the guidelines of those shelters are proper and meet certain standards. Honourable Speaker, we are also looking at the issue of children who are involved in or caught up in violence. We hope that we are able to also encourage more employers to look at providing childcare in workplaces. So it's something that an IFC study, IFC is working with the Ministry, and that will also need Cabinet approval, but it will be funded by the employer, so that if children are at workplaces, then if mum or dad are working, then they're not worried so much about what's happening to their children. They become more productive, and we hope that can reduce the amount of child abuse that we also face, which is 4 out of 5 children. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable. Sorry, Honourable.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Minister. My question is, are there any plans to increase the funding for domestic violence in terms of the prevention and the response program in the coming years?
Thank you, Honourable Member. We are very excited to announce that our bilateral partners have come on board to fund the rollout of this National Action Plan to prevent gender-based violence. Our visit to New York, we were able to meet with also our partners there, who've committed between $3 to $5 million in the next few years to roll out this plan. And this plan also includes a very effective communications campaign, because we need to inculcate this information to the public through an effective communications campaign. We also got to revisit our school curriculum so that we can educate our children about the need to prevent violence in our homes and in our families. So that's the kind of funding we're looking at to supplement what government is committing in the financial year. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Pramila.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Supplementary.
Thank you. My question to the Minister is related to the conflicting information that gets exposed to the public. For example, recently we heard from Fiji Women's Crisis Center. They claim that because of the new government, domestic violence reduced, whereas the Fiji Police Force came forward with their data saying that there is an increase in domestic violence. So my question to you is, how do you deal with this conflicting information when it comes to advocacy and you're trying to change the behavior? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I understand the information that came from the Fiji Women's Crisis Center was that there was a reduction in calls received from the domestic violence helpline, not necessarily a drop in domestic violence. So they saw a drop in the calls that were received from the domestic violence helpline, which the government gives a grant for. So that's part of their reporting to the ministry. So they just reported it factually. As far as that opinion that was given, that's not the opinion of the government. We still need to look at the statistics as is, and importantly working with our stakeholders like the Fiji Police Force, as well as the other service providers, and things to work together, because the numbers, according to the Fiji Country Gender Assessment and the information we received, we're still sitting at 2 out of 3 women were facing violence, and we really need to do something about that. And I hope that's something that we as a parliament, we as legislators, and as a whole country can come together to address. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ritesh Sharma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So one supplementary question for the Honourable Minister. Can the Honourable Minister for Women provide more clarity, because she spoke about a recent trip to US on the UN Commission on the Status of Women session. Can she please provide more clarity on the outcome and output of this event, from this event? Thank you, Speaker, sir.
To you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for that question. I think this is a new question, but the Commission on the Status of Women is, I'm planning to address that. I think there's a question later in the week that I will be able to address that particular
Thank
issue
you.
and give full information on the outcomes of the
Thank
event.
you, Honourable Members.
Thank you.
We'll now move on